Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Nextlander podcast, this special end of the year, the best games of 2024 podcast. Brad Shoemaker, how are you?
As determined by us, the only authority that matters.
Look, you do it long enough, everybody else just falls away. You're the only one left standing. Alex Navarro.
I have no authority. I have no stroke. I have no pull. But you're going to listen to me anyway, damn it.
So we are going to listen to Alex Navarro and Brad and myself as we go through our favorite games of the 2024. A couple of things to announce first, a little housekeeping. There is a video version of this, or at least there's a planned video version of this, as if all things work out. I can never make any guarantees here, but everything seems to be recording. I hope it works. That'll be over on the Patreon side of things if you want to check that out there. Of course, you've got the audio version of this here. We will be going through our top 10 individual lists this time. So starting at 10, working our way up to number 1 over the course of 2 episodes, this one and the one following this. We're pretty much using remap rules, which is...
You can just say it.
Yeah.
We
stole their format.
They said they stole from somewhere else, which...
That was the thing. I came out of last year's Game of the Year looking at what they did and was going like, man, that's just a really nice, no-nonsense, like straightforward way to review everybody's favorite games. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to Patrick and was just like, man, I love your format. I wish we could steal that.
Yeah.
And he was like, we stole it from other podcasters.
Yes,
so
you have our...
Go for it.
Got his blessing. So, which is similar to what we did for Treehouse of Horror as well, when we did that on the Watchcast, which is everybody says their thing. And basically what it means is if my number 10 is higher up on Alex's list, we will wait to talk about that game until we get to where it is on Alex's list. We will put a pin in it, and we will keep going.
Each game will get discussed at its highest possible point.
We don't intend to make a site Nextlander list at this point. If we have time at the end, we might muck around in an informal way to say like, hey, what do you guys think would be the big thing? But that's not the intention here. The intention here is to go over each of our favorite games from the year in a format. And then again, if you're watching the video, we'll have hopefully some B-roll of that. You can see us put stuff into the doc. Otherwise, should we get going? I'm going to just take it over in the video version. It was a fairly dense year for releases. There was a lot of stuff. How did you guys feel about putting together your top 10 list this year?
I had no shortage of stuff to pick. Like I went through the list of every game I played and flagged the ones that were like, okay, that's pretty much a lock for a top 10 or like very close to it. And I came out with either 9 or 10 at the end of that. So it did not take long at all to hit 10 for me because I found 10 pretty much right away that I was like, I can't not put that in there.
Yeah, that's not terribly different from my experience, though. I will say there are probably about a dozen games that could have made up the bottom like 4 of my list. And I ultimately lean toward the ones I either finished or just spent the most time in.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about this right before we started. I think we're going to do a little bit of a kind of honorable mentions, also almost made it kind of thing at the end of this whole thing.
Yeah, yes. Once we're through our lists.
So that's going to be, that'll be in like maybe the second episode where we go through, hey, look, we didn't make our top 10, but it's worth mentioning in this game. But should we kick it off with...
yeah, sure.
Brad, do you want to kick it off with your number 10 game here?
I do... As soon as I decide what my number 10 is. No, I mean, like I've got an order, but I literally changed number 9 and 10 like 20 minutes ago, like right before we got on this call.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? One of my top 10 things that I think I might do here. I'm pretty sure Google Docs for this video got dark mode, and I might switch that over now.
It does. I'm not sure. I know like Drive has dark mode now. And some other stuff does, but I want to say last I checked, maybe Docs does not yet.
Oh, that'd be a bummer.
God awful crime.
And that'd be a bummer. Wow.
I think it'd be under view, maybe,
That's
or actually I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on it.
I want to say when Drive got dark mode, I got all excited and checked on Docs, and it did not have it yet.
How could they? Could they?
Yep, it's a crime against good taste. All right.
Brad, do you want to paste your number 10 in here?
Yes. As of...
This can't change. Once you put it in there, it can't change.
Right. Yes, this is now binding. Like I said, this game was at number 9 right before we got on here. I'm just going to go with it.
Roll with it.
Fear the Spotlight.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
At number 10 for me. Did either of you guys ever touch that?
I never wound up playing it. It's one of those things also on my I'd like to get to this, but I never got to it in 2024 list.
Yeah. I guess
tell us all about it.
We're figuring out this format as we go here. Because I did talk about this game extensively on the main podcast, which I think we'll run into a lot with this. But it's one of the PlayStation 1 looking, that style of early 3D. It's somewhere between Resident Evil and Silent Hill, I want to say. I did not play enough Silent Hill back in the day to say for sure, but I think this is probably more Silent Hill than Resident Evil in presentation. Because, that era of Resident Evil was tank controls and overhead camera, or, like fixed camera angles, pre-rendered backgrounds. This is much more third person behind the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is more of a Silent Hill thing in the PlayStation 1 era, right?
I mean, or in the remake era.
Yeah, in the PS2 era too.
But, we talked about it on the podcast, but it's just a nice, tight little story, little horror game, about a high school student and her friend who break into the high school to get up to some occult shit. And then things get way more occult than they bargained for. And it's like genuinely a very creepy game.
And
like,
so
for how lo-fi the visuals are, like there's real atmosphere and mood in this game that like I actually got the heebie-jeebies a couple times playing it for how sort of lo-fi it is. It's not like you think you're there, man, or anything like that.
No. But I do think one of the hallmarks of this era of survival horror is that particular genre really fit well into the technology of the time. There was just sort of a built-in dinginess and just sort of offness that is, the PS1, 2 graphics that lends itself toward very spooky stuff in the dark, even in a more mundane environment. And I think that's part of the reason why that genre took off so hard is that the actual graphical limitations of the time worked well with the atmosphere that those kinds of games tended to go for.
Yeah, I think that's right. And they do have what feels like really modern lighting in this game for how retro the graphical style is generally, and like the lighting and shadowing, because you're doing a lot of stealth stuff and everything works really well.
Yeah.
There's something about this that I alluded to on the podcast and didn't want to give away because it was kind of a cool surprise. But now that we're in Game of the Year, I think I should just say
we should say spoilers here, right?
Yeah.
If you're listening to this,
all of this is going to be spoilers to some degree. We will give you a heads up when we're about to spoil something, but you should assume that we are going to spoil all of these games.
All spoilers all the time.
So I mean, this is like a design spoiler or a mechanics spoiler. It's like a mode that unlocks after you finish the game is what I'm getting at. So it's not like a story spoiler as such. But like I said, it's you and your friend in the high school, and your friend gets lost. Your friend is like some weird shit that goes on with your friend, but like you're looking for her, like that's the setup of the game. In the first like 15 minutes, she vanishes.
Yeah.
And the length of the story, I'm trying to think, it's like 4 hours long, maybe something like that.
Okay, so pretty tight.
3 to 5, I guess, depending on how much you look for optional stuff and do everything. You finish the story, and then it unlocks a whole other mode on the title screen. I probably should be able to remember both of the characters' names since it's on my top 10. I have now forgotten them, but it's, God, let me just look it up really fast.
Sure. Look, there's going to be plenty of story stuff I either forget or get wrong here. So, this is also is it Blumhouse?
Blumhouse.
Is it Blumhouse?
I believe it's Blumhouse.
Blumhouse sounds weird to me, but I think that's correct. This game's got that weird story where they put this out. It's a husband and wife team that made it, and they put it out and then took it off sale after like a month because Blumhouse came in and was like, hey, we want to publish this and give you money to make it better.
Right.
Not that it was like bad in the first place. It had good Steam reviews before they pulled it down, but I don't know exactly what they did. I never played that original version, but I think they added more content and made it look better and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, it's Vivian and Amy are the two characters.
Okay.
And so after you beat the game, it kind of renames like the main new game option as like Vivian's story. And then under that, it adds Amy's story.
Oh,
and so like there's a whole second story in there that is mostly totally different from what I've seen of it so far. I didn't finish Amy's story yet, but it's like substantially different, like different environments, different everything, different puzzles. And you're basically playing her. You start the whole game over again, play through the same intro just from Amy's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then it diverges once she vanishes, but it literally is just like, hey, like this wasn't even on the box or whatever, but now you're going to play through the game again from Amy's perspective from what she was off doing after all the weird shit happened. So there's like quite a bit of meat to the game, and I think the storytelling is good. Like the puzzles and atmosphere are really interesting. Like it's just a solid ass little retro survival horror package.
Definitely something I wanted to pick up, especially since it's not super long.
Yeah.
Your microphone agrees with you.
That's right. The occult.
They found you.
The spirits are infecting this podcast.
Oh man, I summoned the mic farts. Brad, add it to the list.
Oh, did I not type it in there?
He did. It hasn't shown up in our version yet for some reason, though.
Weird.
Maybe I gotta be not in view mode.
That's probably what it is.
Have to be in edit mode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that.
There it is. Look at that.
I learn new things every day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stay in this mode now.
All right.
Dig it.
Yeah, Fear of the Spotlight. Something that maybe I'll pick up in the future after you played it and liked it, and after especially that's gonna be a thing on my list too. Is like played a lot of big games here. There's gonna be a mix of smaller things and big things. Cannot overstate the joy of a nice, tight, smaller game experience.
Oh yeah,
it's very well done.
I think most of my favorite games of the year are smaller, $10 to $20 like bite-sized kind of things, or not bite-sized, but like more focused things, you know?
Yeah. All right. Should I go next?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Sorry, I'm putting my notes in for the thing. Vinny's 10 is the game on here that I actually did not finish, but is worth being on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Tactical Breach Wizards.
Okay.
Fantastic tactics game where I think you guys both know the premise here. You are, it's a world full of magic and wizardry, and you are basically tier 6, Mike Farders. You are tier 6, operators going in and trying to, hold on a second. I'm going to, Alex, talk about Tactical Breach Wizards for a sec while I just make this work.
No problem. Tactical Breach Wizards, a game that almost made my list, is a turn-based strategy game. You are playing as a team of, magic wielders, again, who are basically SEAL team operators. Like, the magic in this world is more or less just a thing that you use for military operations.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, but tactical Gandalf in the marketing, or not even in the marketing, he's in the game, but, it's like the image they use everywhere to promote this game is...
Yeah.
What I like to think of as kind of tactical Gandalf.
And he's like the main character.
Because it literally just looks like bearded, long white bearded wizard archetype, but in camo, like a wizard hat, but camouflage.
Yeah, like modern American soldier dress.
Yes, it's very funny.
It's very good. The game is also very funny. And sorry about that mic stuff. I took this whole thing apart and thought I got it. I did not. Well, I know what I'm doing over the break. The game is also very funny. It's got a great sense of humor. The tactics, the gameplay in it are awesome. You're basically in this kind of into the breach positional tactics game where you're using your powers throughout the game to position people to be hit by multiple things, to cascade into other opportunities. But they make it very experimental by allowing you to rewind constantly, to take a turn action back if it didn't work out the way you wanted, which I really appreciate because you really are setting this stuff up in this, okay, A happens, then B happens, C needs to happen in order for D to happen. And if you misjudge or anything like that, you can kind of just rewind within one turn. And then when the turn's over, you commit. But while you're in the turn, you can kind of rewind and play around with as much stuff as you want. And it's awesome. It's so good.
So there's no penalty for those rewinds then?
No penalty.
I realized that.
Yeah, none at all. I mean, once you commit to the turn, you can't take it back. But before you say, all right, end turn, you can do any of that stuff, which is great. And the powers are super fun. The upgrades for each character through the between mission upgrades are very good. Again, the writing, top notch, very fun. We probably all have a pretty cynical view on trying to be funny in games. It doesn't always work out. This works. A lot
of times it doesn't.
Yeah. This definitely works. Probably one of my favorite tactical games from the year. If not, I mean, let's see, is it the only one on my list? I think it is the only one on my list. But I did not finish it yet. I think I'm like 3/4 of the way through it, but still deserves to be on this list. Definitely at number 10. Would probably have been higher, except for some parts. Some parts felt like a battle for me could take like 30 minutes, like one battle. Like it's a pretty big investment for me, especially on the later ones where I'm trying to get a perfect run on it. And sometimes I just felt like that was going on too long. And because reinforcements will flood out of the door. Now, it could be more of a me thing than a Tactical Breach Wizards thing, because I always want to get the perfect run, don't want to lose much health, and I'm like, I could do this better. But sometimes it felt like it would take just too long for one bit, and then I just put the game down. Like I made it through one battle, took me 20 minutes, and I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I'll come back to this. But Tactical Breach Wizards, number 10, with a time bullet on my list.
Dig it.
All right, Alex, what do you got?
What do I got? So my number 10, I'm going to type this in, but once I get onto the right window here, just bear with me, as a game that I actually forgot came out this year until this morning. And then I was like, well, okay, this is my number 10.
Same thing happened to me.
It's from January, so, cut me a little slack here, but it is Home Safety Hotline.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Okay, well, this is our first opportunity for me to throw down the, what are we calling it?
This is also on my list card.
Yes, throw down we need to wait on this one card.
Okay.
It is also on your list, Brad?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to make it italics. We don't really need to.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. All right. Well, then, Alex, we will come back to talk about Home Safety Hotline in the near future. Maybe next. I don't know, Brad. What's next?
Who can say?
Maybe? No, this did not change.
All right.
There's no way. Oh God, we have a whole extra row now.
And now we added an extra row just in case we need it.
It's just for
in case something happens.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no way we are discussing this right now.
Okay. Wow, Brad, you're breaking my heart. Look how low that is. It's
I have Astrobot at number 9.
All right.
Yep.
Astrobot will be talked about later. I can promise you that.
Astrobot will be talked about later. I can also promise you that. All right.
All right, Vinny.
Actually, I mean, we're thinking this format through as we go here. I think it's implicit that I guess everybody with a game on their list will talk about it in the context of their list when it comes up, right?
Yes.
So like, even if that game is at number 1 on somebody's list, I'll still talk about why I put it at number 9.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So we are up to Vinny's number 9 here. We had Alex with Home Safety Hotline at number 10. Brad with Astrobot at number 9. All right. Number 9. My next game here is Phoenix Springs.
Okay.
Do you guys remember this one?
Not at all.
I thought about playing it. You get into this weird thing. I'm sure you guys have the same thing, like kind of game of the year crunch mode where you're trying to try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also, like, at some point, especially if it's a longer game or something that requires a lot of consideration, like, you don't want to play an hour of something and then, like, or you're not going to play an hour of something and then say, that's in my top 10, right? Like,
right.
You need to have spent more time with it than that. And this was one where, like, I was like, maybe I should try that for game of the year. But then it's like, okay, are you going to play the whole thing? Are you really going to be able to consider it properly, give it its due in a weekend? Probably not when you're playing 3 other things. So
at some point you're a game of the year tourist.
Right? Exactly. But this is one that I was curious about for sure.
So Phoenix Springs is kind of a more modern point and click adventure game, but the premise or the mechanic is that you kind of have a word cloud, and that's what you're using to navigate the world and interact with things. So you kind of build this vocabulary list, and the main character is the only one that talks. She kind of goes around the world, and she has an internal monologue as she interacts with other players. Other people in the world. So as you kind of walk up to, say, a kid, you might be like, you might pull the word train and you try to interact with the kid and train, and she'll be like, he doesn't really have anything more to say about trains or whatever, right? That's kind of how it all works. The story, though, is this bigger, it's probably not even going to do it any justification to talk about what it is. It's a kind of metaphysical narrative about being alive, not being alive. Remember, I have a couple of games on here that are going to be really tough to describe what the story is, because this game kind of asks more questions than it answers. It's one of those games that kind of leave you open-ended. But
what kind of questions is it specifically asking? Like, is it just very broad spectrum existentialism, or is there a specific, like, story-related version of that?
I think it's more broad existentialism. Okay. So you're looking for your brother, right? You're a reporter who's looking for her brother. you kind of wind up going to this place called Phoenix Springs, where people are either trapped in time or this process of rebirth, and they are just basically living things over in a loop, or it's not made explicitly clear. You're also looking for your younger brother, but you are much younger than he is. He is much older, and he's dying when you find him.
Huh. Oh, weird.
Yeah, it takes place in the future, but it's all very, and it's like this art community, and they're all making, like, it's all about this big art project that was going to happen. It's a very weird game, but also really interesting, both from its style that it has in the art design, the mechanics it has, and what it's trying to do narratively. I think, again, it's really posing a lot of questions, not answering a lot of questions in the story it's telling. I do think it drags in the back half when you get to actual Phoenix Springs, and that's why it's probably a little lower on my list.
You want to show us a little bit of it on the old
sure.
video?
Yeah. By the time you get to Phoenix Springs, you're doing a lot of running back and forth in different areas, which it wasn't my favorite because it's mostly just re-exploring areas that you have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is awesome. As far as adventure games go, and especially point-and-click adventure games, and when I say adventure games, I really mean point-and-click adventure games.
I know when you say an adventure game, very specifically what you mean.
It's super cool. It's great. If you like point-and-click adventure games, and if you're on my wavelength, you should definitely check out Phoenix Springs. Again, maybe drags in the back third or back half, but still very, very cool. And an interesting story. Like very questioning what it means to have experiences and be alive.
It's kind of unsurprising and sounds very appropriate that it takes that kind of tone and direction, like that nebulous vibe of like, when is this? Where is this? What's real type stuff. Cause I did play some of this at Summer Game Fest, and that single voice actor that she's narrating everything that's happening thing seems like it would really lend itself to making everything feel less concrete.
Totally.
You know? Like if A, you're questioning the nature of reality and temporality and everything to begin with, and B, you're only getting the story filtered through what she knows and what she's able to tell you. I could see those two things like kind of reinforcing each other really well.
And it's confusing. It's one of those games, after I finished, I tried to find people talking about it, and there wasn't actually that much. I don't know how popular this game was. There wasn't a ton of material to look up to be like, what thread are people talking about? But the people who were talking about it had the exact same questions I had, which is like, I'm on my third playthrough. I'm picking up all these different clues from the beginning of the game now, from the end of the game. So very, very cool. That's Phoenix Springs. That is my number 9. Alex Navarro, do you have a number 9?
I think this is my number 9. And, I went back and forth on this one a lot, and it's a game I finished. I had a few frustrations with it, but ultimately I just thought the thing was cool enough that it should make the list. Children of the Sun.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
This is the sort of a sniper game. More of a puzzle, figuring out, like, combat puzzle game more than anything else. You are unless I'm misremembering, a nameless girl who was at one point in some kind of cult. You are now getting revenge on that cult by smoking all of them with your sniper rifle. But you only really use one bullet per level, or it's like one bullet per go around. And the idea is that you are controlling the bullet in bullet time. To bop around the level into different enemies, like you're trying to bank it off of things, like cause explosions, do as much damage as you can. It's not a completely refined experience. There are times with the mechanics that it feels like a little bit frustrating, maybe more than the designers intended it to. But it's such a cool concept. It has a really distinctive look and feel to it that is, not particularly dialogue heavy, shall we say. But it doesn't really matter because I think it conveys what it needs to convey just with what they have here. And it's just kind of shocking to me how well it works.
I mean, it's at its core, it's a puzzle game, right?
Yeah, it is. Like the actual, like, it is definitely not a combat game. It is a combat puzzle game.
Right. And the way, if I remember correctly, you're mostly and maybe this changes later on, but the main core mechanic is after you hit something, you can then redirect, right? Like
you redirect it to another place where it will either bank off of something else, cause something else to destroy, or just kill another person, whatever it needs to be. Like you just get into these little, environments, and you just have to suss out what is the optimal path for my bullet.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes the sussing was a little tough for me, or I really enjoyed what I played of this. I thought it was super clever.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I remember there were certain levels where in some spots I just could not find quite everything I needed to hit. Like I tried angle after angle, and I was like, I'm missing like one bird or one person's head or something, and I just cannot.
Couldn't find like they were hiding behind a back door or a
right.
yard or something.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, there's one level. It's like 8 levels in or something where it's like a sawmill or some kind of depot or something. There were like a lot of.
I remember that one.
A lot of like trucks and like different barriers for things to kind of be behind, and it was like I just can't find the right camera angle to quite line up and find every last target I need to hit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trial and error in it. I think the reason I managed to put it on my list is that I never really got that bothered by the amount of trial. Like the trial and erroring was still fairly fun to me. And if you can make that enjoyable, I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I fell off it.
Same.
I liked it. I like the style is such an overused word, but I like the.
But it is.
Yeah,
it has a very bleak, weird style to it that works.
That's like there's almost like psychedelic color scheme that's really cool.
Yeah,
not all the time, but it's not like I guess it's when the bullet is in flight is when the colors get all crazy neon pink and everything.
Yeah.
It's another one of those great examples, and we've got a couple of them on our list so far. Phoenix Springs is one. Fear the Spotlight is one. Even Home Safety Hotline and Tactical Breach. We really don't have anything. Maybe Astrobot, which is like a high fidelity game. Astrobot would be the highest fidelity.
Yeah, that is an extremely high fidelity game.
But like we've talked about this on the podcast a lot about like it doesn't have to go for ultra realism and ultra high fidelity to be striking or to be memorable. As we get into better and better graphics, we don't need to see the pores in everybody's skin. There are just interesting things artists do. And I think that's another good example of art style over fidelity of art.
Totally. And that's the indie game space in a nutshell. And I just think right now, like there is a lot of really interesting creativity that isn't just like, hey, we're doing really nice pixel art. Like people are trying some wild stuff, and I feel like it's fitting pretty well.
And interesting mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a neat mechanic. I mean, look, it's super hot adjacent in a way, but I think that what it's trying to do is novel enough, and I think that they hit it well enough for it to stand out for me as one of the big ones this year.
Children of the Sun, number 9 on Alex's list. Brad Shoemaker.
Should we take a break?
Number 8. Oh, you know what?
I think we're about time for our first break.
Let's do number 8, and
right.
Then we'll take a
Sounds
break.
Good.
All right. Well, now is the time to talk about Home Safety Hotline.
Let's do it.
Oh, perfect.
That game rules.
So this game's not on your list, right, Vinny?
Not on my list.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just inferred from what you said earlier it was not.
Yeah. No, this game's great.
Yes. We streamed most or all of this game, most of it, right? No, I don't think we quite finished it.
No, we didn't finish it. There was just a little bit left on it.
I turned right back around like a day or two after we did that stream and played through the entire thing myself.
Nice.
I did the same thing.
Which it was really fun streaming that, but I also wish I had like the game is getting they're not jokes exactly, although there are jokes for sure. I mean, it's funny, but it's like it's less funny and more, I don't know, what's the word?
It's
peculiar, like eldritch occult, like
so
there's a lot of there's creepy shit in that game.
Yeah.
Like legitimately creepy shit.
Some of the monster like descriptions are actually pretty gnarly.
Like the voice work, some of the things that your supervisor is saying to you, like I love the juxtaposition of her acting against what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's got the most fake cheerful middle manager sort of tone to her delivery, But then she's talking about effectively talking about like worship of the old ones type shit.
Yeah.
That works together really well. If you don't know this game, it is and we're going to get into this because my next game is also in some nostalgic territory. There are a lot of like nostalgic types of games on here. This is like Windows 95 nostalgia.
Because in the interface.
In the interface,
the gameplay is literally you at a fake computer that looks like Windows 95. In the call center taking calls, and like effectively it's a puzzle game.
Mm.
Like you're you're working on. You're kind of deducing from people's calls what sort of creepy supernatural infestation they are dealing with. And it's got a little story to it that goes some fun places. It's really like the quality of the writing, the voice acting, the creepiness of all the, the different, trying to think of like some of the, aren't there like 5 different kinds of hobs in the game, for example?
Yes, there's a variety of hobs. Like the way, I think for me, the thing that really stands out here is it's not just that there's a lot of like goofy, funny writing around like the various cryptids and other things that you're finding. It's that they find a way to blend the mundane with the weird in a really deft way.
Right. Like, is this cockroaches or is this a portal to hell? I'm not sure
exactly
what you're dealing with here. It could be either.
Either feels completely believable, and the way that people talk through those problems, like you said, the voice acting is tremendously good and
funny.
Funny.
Yeah. It's well
they're having
acted,
fun with it.
Yes, they really are. So I really wish I had made time for this over the weekend right before this. Did you guys see that they have put out Christmas DLC?
I did. So between now, when we are doing this and when our like written top 10s go up, I'm probably going to say something about how I regret not putting this higher on my list because of that DLC.
Yeah, I can't wait to play this.
It has Trevor Henderson, who is a favored, let's just say, online supernatural artist that I like a lot. He's the creator of Siren Head. Perhaps you've heard of him. And also Longmont Potion Castle.
Yeah.
Is in this, which is fucking like this is already kind of Longmont Potion Castle type shit, so it's a really natural fit.
Yeah, it's a man, and I've been on record. I love holiday, like Christmas or Halloween, any kind of holiday, but like especially like Christmas-y sorts of DLC. And to do that for this, like the description of this is amazing. It's 1996, and there's only 3 days left until Christmas. Rebecca, a yearly seasonal employee at Home Safety Hotline, has been brought back to help answer the helplines during this busy and deadly time of year. Many strange new household hazards come out during the holidays. This is a different description than I read before, but effectively, you are trying to make it to the Home Safety Hotline holiday party. Like the Christmas party. Yeah, like you're trying to make it to the company Christmas party. So I am extremely looking forward to playing this DLC.
I'm not sure if we actually said what the gameplay was, but it's pretty simple. It's kind of in that God damn it. What was that old internet game that everybody loved a few years ago?
Oh, a few years ago.
The fake old internet one that everybody liked, where you're like the moderator, the content moderator for
Hyperspace?
You're talking about
Hypnospace Outlaw.
Hypnospace Outlaw, yes.
Like, this is in that neighborhood of you are basically, instead of a content moderator, you are a call center person who is trying to match the described problem from a person to something in your database and trying to give them the right advice. It's pretty simple, but I think it's really effective at what it's trying to do.
Yeah. It works super well, and it's awesome.
I
think call center games are super fun. I think fake OSs are always super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We played, Alex, you remember that game we played that was the like fake FBI call center thing where you're like
yes, the one where we were like there was the whole you're trying to uncover some sort of weird conspiracy thing.
Yeah, it's a fun fake operating systems, and being behind a fake computer where you can like dig into files are fun. But this one is not only fun to play, it's just fun to be around, if that makes sense. It's like
it just gets weird with it.
It's like just the quality of the production is kind of uncommonly good between the wide-ranging creativity and the writing and all the different, I think cryptid was a good word for the types of creepy crawlies they come up with in this, and like the quality of the acting and the writing of those calls that are coming in. Like even some of the puzzle solving is pretty devilish in a fun way. Like, it's just a great package.
And I feel like you're laughing along with them.
Yes.
Like,
sure.
Like when sometimes when the calls go through, you're like, this person just seems like they're about to crack up, or was cracking up after. We're like, I got something in my house.
Yep.
It ain't right.
They were having they were having fun in the booth with this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Home Safety Hotline, number
Great
10
game.
on Alex's list, number 8 on Brad's list, and that is where we're going to take our break.
All right.
We'll come back with more right after this. Stick around. All right, we are back, and I think we're up to my number 8.
Give it to me.
Are you ready? Are you ready? You think you can handle this?
Yes, I'm clenched. Give it to me.
Okay. My number 8. Hold on, we get the right spot here. Is wow.
Also, you broke the numbers.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
You're breaking everything, Vinny.
Wow. I'm just gonna say it while I put it in. It is Arranger.
Oh.
A role puzzling adventure. What a great year for me.
Yeah.
Just in general. Arranger.
I can't even see it on the list.
No, I didn't put it in yet.
Okay.
My mouse disappeared, which is
I can see it.
Thank you.
I wrote it.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, the numbers are still broken, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'll fix the numbers.
All right.
Here.
Tell me about Arranger.
Ranger is the game sliding puzzle game. Remember that?
Okay.
Remember that game?
Vaguely.
Yep.
Let me see if I can paste it in here again.
It's
There it
awesome.
is. Ranger, a role puzzling adventure game. It's a sliding puzzle game where you play as, I forget the name of the character. It's not really important. The story's okay in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's
not what you're there for necessarily.
It's a backdrop for what you're doing. The main hook of the game is was it Brad? Do you remember? Is it Jenna? That sounds like
I don't remember her name.
You are basically the only person in this town in this world who can, when they move the kind of tiles slide underneath you. Either horizontally or vertically, like from a top-down perspective. And that either drags things around with you or not. And so you basically wind up trying to... It's not quite the most annoying Zelda puzzles where you got to get the... You know what I mean? Where you got to get the one empty space, you got to make the tree picture, like those puzzle games that everybody hates. It's not that. It's mostly like, hey, can you move an item around, sometimes yourself, move an item around the board and get it to where you need to be by sliding the horizontally or vertically the game area, right? The game space. Throughout the game, they kind of start adding in other mechanics. Things will warp around. Things will teleport. There are monsters you can kill with swords. And it's pretty lighthearted. It's a narratively, it's kind of like a kind of upbeat message. Hey, the character in it is very like, hey man, everybody's cool and I'm going to find out about myself. And why am I the only one with this weird power? And you kind of figure that out towards the end and kind of realize there's a thing called the stasis and let's keep everything the same. But no, keeping everything the same is bad. And, it's a horrible thing. It's, it's pretty fun by the end of realizing how your power of chaos basically is better than the same old. But really, this is a mechanics game for me.
And the mechanics were hitting for you.
Yeah, it's the right thing between the mechanics and story, which I need in a game. I'm not just a pure mechanics person for the most part. So yeah, I would say Arranger mechanically probably one of the deeper mechanics things on my list this year, just in terms of
super clever. It's like extremely clever, really well designed. I played through about the first hour of this. I really need to play the rest of it.
It's another one of those things where kind of like some of the things towards the bottom of this, it may have been higher if it could keep up the pace a little bit. That's some of the stuff lower on this list is like, this is awesome, but for how long does it keep up? Or for how long are you like, okay, it's another one of these puzzles, not in a terrible way if you're enjoying it, but kind of in a way that's like, all right, I kind of get it. I kind of want to just see it through to the end now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough line to walk, right? I mean, this game has an incredible core mechanic. Like it's seriously is one of the most clever mechanics I've seen, or mashups, I guess I should say, because it's like a mashup of a type of blocked, like tile sliding puzzle game with a overhead Zelda-ish kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's an incredibly clever mashup. But like, however unique your gimmick is, like sometimes keeping the gimmick fresh all the way can be tough.
Very tough. And like, I it's not really a knock against it. It's just one of those things that like, it's probably why it didn't break my top 5. It's just because I loved it, but it is Gemma. It's just one of those things where like you kind of get by about halfway through, you've mostly seen everything. There's just going to be variations on the puzzle. And so awesome game, great puzzle game, great little fun time, very positive attitude in the game. I really, really enjoyed it. Arranger. That's on my list. I'm going to figure out the numbers, Alex, while we get here. So don't put your thing in there yet.
Okay. I won't.
Yeah.
I tried to control Z my way. Oh, there it is. I tried to Control Z my way back to fixing the numbers, but that did not work.
Yeah, now I got an extra number in here. It's very weird. Okay. All right, Alex.
All right. Wait, nope.
No, you got to put your number 8 back. Or, the list is still a little funky.
Why is... Okay, yeah.
Are you tabbing out of there? I'd say
don't tab.
I would click around.
Okay. If you're watching the video, you see everything that's going on here. But
we've lost
your number 9, whatever it was.
It's okay.
What was your number 9?
My number 9 was Phoenix Springs. This is
That's
really weird.
Just type it in there.
I got
I'm typing it in.
Okay.
All right.
But then it's not mine. Then it's
it is, though, but it's
stole
under your
number
name.
9.
Still
There
counts.
it is. All right. Alex, number 8.
Let's get ridiculous.
I love ridiculous.
Eh?
Thank goodness you're here.
Oh. Okay.
There's a lot of stuff here that is just on the bubble for me. And
that's the thing. These are all bubble games. These are just the bubble games that I ultimately stayed inside the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of typically how the top 10 goes. Especially the bottom 3 to 3 are like, oh, this could have been 5 different games, but this is what snuck in.
Yeah. So in my case, it could have been 12 different games that I was really not sure where they were all going to fit together, but this one stuck.
Yeah, this is another super duper fun one. This one almost gets into that territory of okay, I think we need to wrap this up soon. We're revisiting a lot of territory. But Alex, what was your opinion of that? Did you think it started getting a little long in the tooth?
I didn't think it got too long in the tooth because I think it ended where it needed to. I think the game does maybe start getting in that direction, but then by that point you are basically at the end game. But yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing that complicated about it. It is an environmental puzzle game. You are just kind of poking around. The thing I would maybe compare it to, at least on just sort of a joke delivery mechanism level, is something like Jazz Punk.
Sure. Yes.
Where it's a world, you are poking at everything, and the jokes and the Britishness are just pouring out everywhere.
Again, we talked about it being tough to do humor in games.
Mm-hmm.
Folks are hitting it. There's something. This has I don't know, it's quite ad-libbed, but it's got that quality of an improv thing going on.
Yeah.
Where it feels like people are having fun on the set.
Yeah, there's a thing with video games that is this. It's hard to express this without sounding super trite, video games have grown up or whatever, but it feels like there's all these disciplines in games that are just as good as they are everywhere else now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And comedy, humor is kind of becoming one of those, writing, music, whatever, it's game scores are just as good as film scores now, writing.
Yeah.
In some cases, writing in games can be just as good as a novel or whatever. I'm generalizing, but it's it's becoming less notable and more just kind of expected that oh, this game is incredibly funny, in a way that's not forced or, something that would have felt this game was almost hilarious 10 or 12 years ago,
Especially I think since with more of a accepted indie scene, you don't have to stretch it out for 50 hours, right?
No.
You can have your
This
joke.
is a few hours long,
Yeah. You could do your bit. It's a funny bit, and I think you said, Alex, maybe get out about the right time. For me, I think it went on a little too long. There's a decent amount of backtracking in this game that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, you do kind of have to go over some areas a few times.
But yeah, you punch the crap out of everybody in this game and everything.
Yeah. And I think the reason this one kind of stood out to me amid other funny stuff this year is that not only, the game is funny on its own merits, but a big part of why it's funny is because it has wholly embraced the fact that British people are just inherently ridiculous. The English mind is one of absurdity, and they have seized on that in a way that I think understands that just if you're gonna do this, you just have to go all the way with it and just turn them into fucking slapstick punching bags, and they are more than willing to do that.
Yeah.
Hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way.
Yeah. And just finding the absurdity in everything. And it is exactly what this trailer and this video says. It is a short romp, and it is a delightful one, I think, pretty much from beginning to end.
I am partial to the main character in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's his shirt. I think it's his tiny short-sleeved white shirt and tie that puts it over the line for me.
The button-down short sleeves.
Yes.
The British salary man, if there is such a thing.
I always have to mute this trailer every time we play it because it gets a
the music. Is
it's very good, but it always gets the video pulled down, even if it's private.
But yeah, tremendous art, great cartoon style, good voice acting. The jokes last just long enough, they know what they have in the gags and do not labor on them too long. Like you said, a little bit of backtracking, but otherwise, I had like zero complaints about this experience.
Great game.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Thank goodness.
But I mean, this is implicit, I guess, but it did not make your top 10, Vinny.
Did not. No.
Okay.
I mean,
just to be clear.
You would have said something otherwise.
No, I would have said something. Yes. I know we're doing this.
That surprises me.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of good games out there. Like I said,
true.
It's tough. It was a bubble one.
Yeah, like I just looked. I have at least 9 games that were in these could have been in the top 10 and weren't list.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like a lot of competition this year.
Yeah, we'll at the end there, we'll probably go over our honorable mentions. This would have definitely been very close to my like 11, 12, 13, 14 spot. Yeah, you guys might be surprised what makes this list.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Well, we've gotten through our initial threepence of games. What's up next?
Brad, we are on your number 7.
Am I back up?
You are.
This one could have slid around. This could have been maybe a spot or 2 higher. I'm sort of undecided because it's still fresh in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
I put mouth washing at number 7.
This will be higher on my list.
Okay. All right. Well, then moving on.
Yeah. There will be time to talk about mouth washing.
Sorry, I'm gonna put a note here as I just had a big old cough before I get to mine. So hold on.
Where does that go on your list?
It's like it's near a top. It was on the bubble, but I really need
it just rocketed up as we were talking about things.
That's right. So hopefully, if you're listening to this, you didn't hear me cough, but you now heard the explanation of what I was doing.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's see. I had a Ranger. Oh, okay. You guys knew this was going to be on my list.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. Never mind.
What's up?
I started to say something, and then I was like, wait, no, that might kind of blow things later. I started to say the game that I bumped to put mouthwashing on here at the last minute, but
okay.
I'll save that.
We can talk about that later.
I'll save that because that game might come up at some point.
All right. Well, Vinny, what is your numero? 6?
Siete?
I had to remember 4th grade Spanish class.
7.
Yeah, 6, I believe.
Siete.
Yeah,
Siete. You're right. It is Siete. 6 is 6.
Not a surprise to anyone out there. It is Rise of the Golden Idol.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Now, this is one that I don't think I loved as much as the initial Idol games. Oops, I got too many windows open there. Initial Idol games, but I still really enjoy it, and I will play any of these things as they come out. Now, this one takes place after.
By the way,
you're in luck. I just have to say you're in luck because they're putting out like 5 DLCs for this or something.
Keep them coming.
I was also going to say, you shouldn't just say idol games because that actually does mean something else.
Yeah,
you should say, idol is in idolatry.
Every time you say idol game,
yeah,
sure. Very different idea.
The Golden Idol games.
There you go. That does it.
This takes place in the far-flung future of the 1970s, I think.
Yeah, I believe it's 70s.
Past where the initial Rise or the initial Golden Idol games take place. They have a lot of different vignettes, a lot of different characters to keep track of. They add some new ways to navigate the menus, but it is pretty similar to the original Golden Idol games. There's not too much. I think one of the things that I didn't love as much, I really liked the original music in the vignettes, the kind of jaunty, weird score that underlaid the whole thing. Rise of the Golden Idol doesn't necessarily have that, but you do go on this very weird, very detailed tour of mystery, and you're kind of non-linearly putting together the story of what is happening. How are they using the Golden Idol in weird ways? To what end? Who are all these people? How do they all fit in? And by the end, you do get a pretty complete picture and sense of what is happening in this world. And it's pretty weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty sordid tale of, I don't know, power, money, advertising.
Mm-hmm. All the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
I feel like this game would have had a pretty tough road to hoe to actually outdo your enthusiasm for the first game.
Yeah, the Golden Idol games originally are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
This is no slouch by any means. I just think the tale that is told in the original is a little more interesting, but it's also a little more
antique.
Yeah, mystical. Yes. I don't know.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you mean. I kind of had the same response to this compared to the first one. The first one being set in more I don't know, like colonial times or even earlier than that, you know?
Yeah, it's a fake world. It's not based in a real world, but yes, it is their fake world.
There's a feeling of antiquity to the first game that makes it, yes, feel just a little bit more mystical, where this one feels a little more grounded by being set so close to the present day.
Yeah, and the stakes, while they're pretty big in this, the stakes in the original, you're not even quite sure what they are. Like, it is almost a world domination. And here it's a little different, but still fantastic. Still love these games.
I need to play the rest of this. I really enjoyed what I have played of this. I said this on the podcast too, though, and I think you may have agreed. I kind of liked you said this about the music. I kind of like the look of the first game better too.
So this one has a little bit more of that 3D kind of stretchy face thing. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, it's almost like they're pulling on points on the faces to animate them.
Like the art style's fine in a vacuum here. It's just that the first one was so stylized and specifically had such a look of like early PC games.
Yeah.
Like the first game had the like pixelated, like pixel art and like dithered look that made it look like it could have come from like the Amiga or the Atari ST or something like that, you know? And this just feels a little more like kind of generic hand painted, which it's fine. I don't have anything against the style here. It's just that first one had such a specific look that I liked so much that it felt a little bit like a step back for me there.
I do like their grotesque renderings on everybody, though.
Yeah, everybody's a nightmare.
Yes, like the caricatures, the facial proportions and stuff are pretty fucked up.
It's all very liquid television.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of, sure.
That's a good point. Good point. Rise of the Golden Idol. Fantastic game. Again, great year for me for adventure games and for basically puzzle games.
I'm hearing they're back.
They're good puzzle games with a good story. I'm pretty happy in 2024. Rise of the Golden Idol, that is my number 7, which brings us to Alex. You're number 7.
My number 7 is 50 games.
Whoa.
Oh.
The UFO 50 games, specifically.
Interesting. Okay, I wasn't sure if this was going to make anybody's list. Is it on anybody else's?
It is not, but it's on that short list of games that could have been, which I'll get into after Alex speaks.
Okay. Well, it is my time. I guess we're going to be speaking then, because I guess it's not on your list, Vinny, right?
It is not on my list.
So my thing with UFO 50 is I did not go into this thinking it was necessarily going to make my list, because while I have played or at least touched every single one of the games in the collection, obviously I did not love every single one of them. The thing that has stuck with me throughout the years is I'm just so goddamn impressed with it as an experience. Like, they really did make 50 fucking games that all feel fairly complete. And I know that there is like a meta layer to this thing that I have not even really delved into much. Like, there is a meta mystery sort of embedded in this thing. But just taken purely as a fanciful like tribute to the idea of an old console or an old game company that does not exist, like, they went way harder on this than they probably ever needed to. And I mean, that's probably part of why it took so damn long for it to come out. But the games, even the ones I don't like, I still kind of admire. And there's enough games in here that I definitely do like, that I kind of feel like it would not be an accurate representation of my level of impressed with this thing to not put it on the list.
So, yeah, there's a crazy amount of depth in a lot of these games. Like, what was it, 8 years between announcement and release or something like that? I
believe so,
but, like,
it was almost a decade.
Like, you see why it took so long to get it out when you actually dig into some of these, because like any one of these feels like it could have been a boxed $50 NES game back in the day.
Oh yeah, I mean they are full games.
In fact, a lot of them feel way more modern and complex than NES games did back then in terms of just the amount of design work and the complexity of the mechanics and stuff.
Totally.
It's kind of it's a value 10. I'll say that.
Oh, definitely. It'd be a value 11. Like, I would, if we were still doing GameSpot scoring, I would have argued that we should break the scoring system for this.
My thing was, like, for a lot of these games, and there were like 3 or 4 that I really liked. It had that thing that I get when I play old games, which is I only want to play it for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I put it down.
Yep. Yes, actually, there almost needs to be a name for this phenomenon. Like, this happens when you like load up an emulator with the entire collection of a console games library.
Yeah.
Or it happens with Game Pass as well, I find sometimes. When you're so spoiled for choice and the barrier to entry is so low for trying different stuff, yes, you frequently really just end up bouncing around for 5 or 10 minutes at a time and not sticking with things.
I would describe it less as choice paralysis and more choice attention deficit disorder.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff in here.
just saw a game I never even tried that's like straight up Fantasy Zone or something.
Yeah. Again, there are 50 fucking games in here. All of them feel fairly complete. I'll just name a few of my favorites here, just from my time. The ones I probably spent the most time in. Tactics, the strategy game, which we've seen a little bit here in the video, I thought was probably actually my favorite of all of them. Onion
like
Delivery.
Tactics is like the tower defense-y kind of one.
Yeah, that's
right?
the tower defense-y game. Onion Delivery, which definitely has the best name of everything on here. Party House, which is a strategy game in which you are, basically you got a party house and there are too many people in the party house. What is the Fist one? Fist Hell, another great name, but also just a fairly fun arcade brawler type thing. I could probably just keep going. Like, there's at least a dozen of these that I think are pretty great. Yeah. But the worst game in this is not necessarily even a bad game. It's just a game that isn't the type of game I normally like to play.
It feels really telling to me that there are people out there, like people on our Discord, for example, and I assume they're being serious and not just funning around, who are straight up saying like, one of the games in here is on their Game of the Year list.
Oh, wow.
Like Barbuda, the first game, chronologically, the first game this fake company put out. Like, I've straight up seen people say, like, Barbuda is in my top 10, not UFO 50.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like, because some of these games have got some real meat to them.
Yeah. And I think that completeness and that clarity of vision across both the amount of time they spent working on this and the number of people that all, contributed to it. Like, I can't help but be impressed and say, yeah, no, this is something that has to be on my list because I just think it's so fucking cool.
Yeah. The biggest thing that stopped me from putting it on my list, and it's not the game's fault, really, it's more like it was a barrier to me getting into it, is it just kind of bums me out that they only put it out on Steam to start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this really needs some kind of portable release, and I grant anybody with a Steam Deck does not have this problem.
You're right.
With this game, and I bet a lot of people have been playing this on Steam Decks.
But you're right. This is like a natural Switch fit.
Yes.
Like, if there ever was one.
Yes. Like, if this had been on the Switch, I would have grabbed it on the Switch. And then when I've been out of town, like, chipped away at some of these games portably. So when it inevitably comes to, like, let's say once the Switch 2 is out and this comes out or something, I could see myself spending way more time with it.
I saw so many people loving this. I don't know. For me, it just didn't grab me as much as I thought it would. But there are some games in here like that Shadowgate one, which was awesome. I really like that. I also like their idle game, which you could play in the background. But the whole thing didn't grab me, which is just weird because I feel like it is targeted at my nostalgia. Like at us. This is absolutely our a game a collection of stuff that we would have grown up with.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, there was a moment where I was not even sure this was going to make my list, but as a construction, it is just so, I don't know, just like stuffed and good. It's just hard to argue with.
Totally.
For me.
Academically, I am completely impressed. Like, I didn't think this thing would ever see the light of day. Actually, I knew it would see the light of day, but it had been so long.
Yeah, but would anyone care by the time it did? And, well, I did.
It's very impressive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I think, Brad, going back to what you said, it is kind of like when I fire up the Mister and I'm super excited, then I'm like, okay, moving on. Yeah.
But yeah, UFO 50, that is my number 7.
UFO 50, Alex is number 7. We are up to Brad's number 6.
Oh, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm second guessing my number 6, man. Should that be higher? Oh, maybe it should be higher.
Now's your chance to make the change before we know about it.
I'm going to have to type it into this doc and then it's binding forever. I'm just looking at what else is on this list. No, I don't think it can go any higher.
All right. Get it in there.
Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown.
Okay.
At number 6.
That's on my list.
Okay. I figured it would be.
Is it your number 6? Because then we could just talk about it now.
Nope.
Okay, then we will talk about it later.
That's fair. It easily could be above 6 for me. I'm still looking at this list going like, man, maybe I should have slid it up. But
it is close. This was a close one, a back and forth close one. It is not my number 6, though.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
My number 6 is 1,000 Times Resist.
Okay.
Okay.
A game that I feel like was not talked about nearly as much as I believe it should be talked about. I think this is maybe...
I think that's true among us. I'm not sure that's true anywhere else because I saw people talking about this all year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I like a lot of people on social media that I know have been proclaiming the greatness of this game. I will say I feel like coming out of the Game Awards, this is the one I've seen the most people going like, it's a crime that game got snubbed as hard as it did at those.
It maybe has one of the best stories of games this year. Gameplay wise, it's not a mechanics heavy game, but it is a narratively dense. How much do you guys know about this game? Because you could probably take the rest of this entire episode to kind of go through what happens in this game, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't get it all right anyway.
I know what I saw when we streamed a little bit of it. Like, isn't there kind of a dual reality thing in a high school going on?
Whew. So it is the future. It is the future. And this is very big spoilers, but it is the future. There has been a pandemic. Everyone is dead.
Okay.
There is one person, the All Mother. She is immune. She has an immunity.
Sorry, let me ask real quick.
Yeah.
What you're laying out now, is this what's known at the beginning of the game, or is this like the ultimate truth you find out later? Because I'm trying to remember what you know at the beginning.
You don't know a lot at the beginning. And the story is told non-sequentially. So you get bits and pieces jumping around through time. And I'm not going to go through the entire story, but it is that is kind of the setup. The stuff you learn later on is kind of the more meat and potatoes of the story. But the setup is there's this person, she has an immunity. What you find out later is she's made this entire civilization of clones. There is a sin that was committed by the original clones, and
an original sin.
By the original clones that she made. She kind of revokes immunity from them, and they live in this other system without immunity on the surface. There are these aliens that come, and they're this part of this pandemic where they basically kill you by you cry to death. You tears come out. Look, this is very anime.
I'm getting that.
Trappings.
I'm with you so far.
But this game's themes, I think some of that betrays the real themes in this game, which are about this game is heavily relies on the Hong Kong riots from 2019 2020.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Huh. What do you mean relies on? Like references them by name?
Strongly, yes. Like her parents, the girl's parents, are basically had left Hong Kong during those riots.
Shit.
Okay.
It's about immigration. It is about being different. It's about trying to fit in. It's about pressure from being a new immigrant in the country, along with all that other sci-fi stuff that happens. It is about being underconfident. It is about religion. There's so many themes that crisscross this thing. I feel like it's shortchanging it to just describe its overarching 20,000 foot view of aliens and cults and genetic engineering of people, because there's so many.
They're weaving a lot of things together here.
You want to throw a trailer on while we're
sure? Yeah. Sorry,
it would help me to remember to see it a little, some more.
It's so, and basically it's told through you play this person called the Watcher. There are different roles in this society, in the All Mother Society. You play as they're all clones of the All Mother, but the Watcher is there to kind of record and keep track of everything. But you kind of uncover a deeper, darker secret going on here. It's really intense for the story. And what you start off with in the game is you killing the All Mother, and you kind of backtrack your way into figuring out why that happens. Like that's the opening scene, Brad, you were talking about, with you stabbing the All Mother in the back. Right. After the school part. The school parts are the All Mother when she was a kid in school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you're kind of putting all of this together, and you kind of get a sense of who she was. And I don't want to go too deep into it because it's a lot.
You want to discover it, yeah.
But if any of this sounds interesting, you should absolutely play this game. I do think it is one of the best stories of the year in 2024. Gameplay wise, middling. Some of the communion, what they call the communion sessions where you're bebopping around, they're okay. That's probably the most mechanically dense, but it's really, really good.
It's really about the interactive narrative more than anything else.
It really is. It's
almost like a 3D, like third person visual novel from the sound of things.
It's a little more than that. it's a little more than that. There's definitely, but it's just, I think the themes it explores, you just don't see it that much woven together. This thing could have fallen on its face so many times, and I think it pulls it out in the end with this weird scientific or sci-fi trapping along the whole thing, where it doesn't get too far up its own ass, which is definitely a danger in games like this. Where you're like, all right,
for sure.
It's very good. 1,000 times resist. I personally still think maybe it's been talked about, not celebrated enough. Maybe I'm not in the right parts of the internet. I gotta go check out these other parts of the internet where people are 1,000 times.
Oh,
resisting.
there is celebrating, my friend. It's out there.
It's very, very good. And that is why it is at number 6 for me.
All right.
I suspect it's not on your guys' list.
Nope.
No.
Should be.
I wouldn't have let you talk if it was.
All right, Alex. We're up to your number 6.
I've been sorry. I don't know if we should get into this. I've kind of been thinking about that a little bit. Like, I think I'm kind of the opposite of Vinny, where like you really want a story and everything, you know, like.
Oh, we've known this forever.
I think you're kind of like mechanics optional as long as there's a good story.
Totally, yes.
I'm like kind of the inverse of that.
No, we've known this forever. You are the person we go to when it's like the mechanics in this, like what was the one I always think of, like Boomerang X and the the dagger one that's like a million miles an hour where you shoot daggers out of your face. What was that one called?
Oh, Devil Daggers.
Devil Daggers, right? Where those games to me are like,
totally.
Well, what's the story? And you're like, it doesn't matter. The mechanics in this are awesome.
Yeah,
right. But the thing I hadn't really realized though is the corollary to that, which is if there's a great story but the mechanics are kind of nothing, or you're not doing anything much. Like you're talking about with 1,000 times resist, like that's tougher for me.
It's not like you're doing nothing. You are exploring the world. It is third person 3D. It's just like, it's not an action game for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Or I don't even need it to be like,
or it's not a puzzle game. You know, there's not,
that's what it is. It doesn't have to be, I'm trying to think how to describe this. It doesn't have to be like an action challenge. It doesn't have to be a challenge of dexterity. It could be more of a mental like puzzle solving challenge.
Yeah, there's not a ton of that.
If it's a game that's pretty much just presenting story, well, mouthwashing was kind of this, but I think there's a little more to it. Or maybe the mouthwashing story.
Like mouthwashing.
Or maybe the mouthwashing story is just that good that I overcame that. But like generally, if it's just kind of like run from place to place to be doled out more story, that's a tougher sell for me. Without anything much to kind of tease your brain.
There are sections of it that have you doing some more mechanically complex stuff, but it's not like, challenging at all.
Right.
But it is a little more like a mouthwashing where you're exploring a space to get more story. And then you kind of hit the critical plot points and that kind of pushes the thing forward. It's awesome though. It's so cool. Those who know.
Yeah.
Hair to hair, sister.
Vinny is the too much story. Brad is the too much mechanics, and I'm the porridge that's just right.
That's right.
I've heard hair to hair so many times.
Heck yeah.
I don't know what to make of it, but it makes me mildly uncomfortable.
As well it should.
It is the spoilers. It is the cloning from the hair.
Got it.
As far as I remember.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Alex, what is your number 6?
My number 6, and we should probably take another break after this, but my number 6 is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Oh, sure.
Wow.
Sure.
I thought that might be higher.
Yeah, I did too. And the more I sat there and the more I thought about it, the more I thought to myself, I really like this game. It absolutely belongs in my top 10. It is not my favorite among the last several of these games from our GG studio.
Okay. All right.
So this is obviously the next big numbered sequel in this franchise. It is the second Ichiban Kasuga game, but it is also yet another goodbye for Kiryu because they cannot ever completely detach themselves from that character, and they still don't by the end of this one. But my quibbles with that aside, the main thing about this game is it is Ichiban's Hawaiian Vacation. It is we are transplanting the majority of these characters to Hawaii for long stretches, though there is also a whole other half of the game that still takes place specifically in Yokohama. And you are basically running a split party adventure through a lot of it, where a bunch of Ichiban and three or four of his friends are hanging around Hawaii, while Kiryu and his 3 or 4 compatriots are running around in Yokohama. And it is both a mixture of a Ichiban finding his still living mother story and also a Kiryu's bucket list before he dies of cancer game.
A strong pitch.
Yeah. And there's a lot to like in that pitch, and there's a lot to like in the game. The only reason it's not higher, and the reason it kind of loses a little bit of steam for me, is that I think it's a little overstuffed for what they actually have. And I think the split narrative kind of does Ichiban a little bit dirty in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, that's a shame, because that's what I would be coming to this for. 7 was the only one I've ever played of these, and like I've said it before, but Ichiban is like one of the most fun video game protagonists in history.
Yeah.
So hearing like Ichiban's Hawaiian Vacation is just like, man, why haven't I played this? But then when you talk about like, oh, that actually gets short shrift compared to the other stuff and X, Y, and Z, like that kind of makes more sense.
I think what it is it really is toward the end that I feel like they kind of lose the Ichiban thread. And part of that is because they're trying to combine all the different things that have sort of been separate throughout the game. And when they get around to it, they're like, actually, Kiryu's story is more important. That's going to be our closer. And what you do in Hawaii is a lot of fun. I think a lot of the stuff they play around with the whole like being in this beach, vacation environment, the side quests they build out for you around like, the fake Pokemon game where you were collecting dirt bags, the fucking Dondoko Island, which is, their Animal Crossing thing, which takes a little while to get going, but is actually pretty cool. Like all that stuff is pretty well done. There's maybe just a little too much of that stuff for how interesting it actually is. And again, I think by doing the split narrative thing, it's fine that you want to kind of tie up some of where Kiryu was, especially after the man who erased his name side game, where you find out what his secret agent shit was he was doing in between games. It's just that when they get to the final conflict, which involves like a whole nother Yakuza thing, like, second grade dissolution, it's a lot of stuff that ties into the first game. Once they dispatch with the Hawaii big bad, which is the guy that Kiryu or Ichiban ends up fighting, they kind of just let Ichiban and his crew just sit on the sidelines while Kiryu goes and fights the big boss in the game, who is not actually that interesting of a villain overall. I think that there are some interesting story threads there, but a lot of the villainy in this game feels very much like it just kind of gets erased by the sort of the nature of needing to tie it all up in a little too neatly.
Does Ichiban have like a closure for it, or does it kind of end on Kiryu? Like, does he come back?
So I'm going to spoil some things here. I think I might have talked about this on the podcast anyway before with spoiler tags, but I'll just do it here again. So you find Kiryu's or Ichiban's mom relatively early in the game. I'd say like right around the midway point. Yeah. And, there's a lot of chase, like you're trying to figure out what she was up to, why she disappeared, kind of why she's trying to protect this young girl who is part of a religious sect in Hawaii that is definitely not Hawaiian Scientology. But like once you kind of wrap up some of that, sorry, what was the original question? I kind of lost the thread there for a second. There's a lot to talk about.
Does Ichiban get a wrap up towards the end, or because you said they kind of sideline him, and then it's Kiryu's story for kind of the back?
There is a wrap up, but it's a little too neat, and I think they kind of forget about the mom stuff at a certain point. Like it really feels like once they've kind of taken her out of danger, there isn't even like a really big moment between them where it feels like they talk through their shit, figure out, kind of what happened, like while they were both like separated from one another. It kind of just feels like, well, we rescued that girl you were protecting. Anyway, on with the next thing. And the character that is the big bad in this game, the one who is like the final boss in this game,
is not the cold guy. That's a different guy.
That's not the cold guy. Yeah. He's the cold guy is a guy that you end up winning over. He's basically going to, I think he's going to be Ichiban's Majima going forward.
Okay.
The big bad in this game is revealed to be Ichiban's half-brother.
Okay.
And Ichiban does not fight him. Kiryu does. Which is a weird choice to me.
Sure.
Now, I think the reason they did that is because, ultimately, I think this is really more of a Kiryu game than it is an Ichiban game. They try to split it, but I think ultimately where the narrative goes, it feels like they are really leaning much harder on the Kiryu. Is he going to live? Does he, achieve all his goals thing? And they still can't bring themselves to kill him off.
It's like maybe should have been a little more of a passing of the torch kind of thing.
Yeah, like they've had their opportunities, and it feels like they are just letting them pass by.
I don't know why this is like, why this is the analogy I go to immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Kiryu is kind of the James Kirk of Yakuza.
Interesting.
Where Next Generation finally gets their own film series, and they still can't help bringing back Kirk and making it about him again.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
Yeah, I think, and again, the reason it's still as high as on my list as it is I still had a blast with this game. Like, there's still, the combat is much better than the last game was. I think they do some interesting, fun stuff with the party dynamics. I think the new party members are mostly very good. And, the new setting is novel. I think that, bopping around Hawaii is a fair amount of fun. I think the only thing that really was a little bit of a bummer is I felt like the sub-stories got a little bit of short shrift in this one, but there's enough other narrative content around the edges that I didn't feel it too badly. But it is, like, it's a very long RPG. It is, I don't think all of that length is fully justified, but the stuff that is good is really, really good.
Yeah. I won't belabor this too much because by the time this podcast posts, we will have talked about this on another podcast that's already been up for a week.
Mm-hmm.
But coming out of the Game Awards and seeing everything else that Ryuga Gotoku apparently had going on at the same time they were making this,
yeah,
kind of makes a little more sense why this feels maybe like stretched a little thin for what it is.
Yeah,
because they apparently have at least 3 other games, or maybe 4 in production at the same time.
I do think that studio has gotten bigger. They did have that Man Who Erased His Name, sort of like short game that came out last year. I think unless they are changing engines, they are able to pretty easily slide into a new narrative with these things, like better than maybe some other studios are positioned to, though they did have to build that whole Hawaii map and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I think they have talked about some of their production efficiencies, and a lot of that is reusing like Kamurocho and stuff like that across multiple games. But
yeah, I mean, half this game is Yokohama again, so
yeah, of course, a lot of the stuff they're doing now is extremely different from what they've done before. But anyway,
what did you think of the was it Dondoku Island?
Dondoku Island?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a 1-to-1 Animal Crossing, but it is basically that idea. You were building a resort hotel, or rehabbing a resort hotel on an island off the coast of Hawaii, and helping these people out who are being menaced by evil waste management company.
Of course,
who are pirates also, I should mention.
Well, of course,
as they normally are. I think that stuff gets good once you start having the ability to unlock like more interesting scenery in that. Like when you have the ability to build like whole ass buildings around there.
Okay, I
think it gets pretty good. It's in the initial wave where it just kind of feels like, well, I put a bench down. Like it's not, that is maybe not as exciting.
Can you finish it, or is it kind of, you can play this? Oh, you can. Okay.
You can play it forever is the thing. Once you finish the narrative, you can just go back in there and continue to tweak your island for, all you want. But there is a narrative end to that mode.
All right. Well, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Alex is number 6. On that
Still a great game.
Still a great game. I mean, it's number 6 is no slouch.
Yeah.
We're going to take another quick break here, and we'll be back with Brad's number 5. And I get a sense that we'll be revisiting some of these other games that we've talked about pretty soon. So stick around. We'll be right back. And we are back, and we are up to Brad, your number 5.
All right, here we go.
Your
5 alive.
Favorite game of the year.
This could be a controversial choice.
Okay.
But it's my list, goddammit.
You can do what you want.
I'm going to just type this in right now.
Okay.
The Battle Aces beta.
Okay, not on my list.
So,
listen, if it arrived in 2024 in any form, it counts.
Even if it didn't, who cares? It's your list. Do what you want.
Whatever. I'm being a little bit flippant about old, GameSpot rules or whatever. It's not a retail release in the calendar year. Blah blah blah. I'm literally evaluating this just as the beta as its own release.
Sure.
Okay.
Even if no forthcoming full game was ever going to happen, and it was just that beta and that was it, this is still on my list. I really hoped this last beta in November was going to roll right into full release, just kind of soft launch, like, the beta's been going for 2 weeks and now we're opening it up. And hey, now you can give us money. And by the way, it's just out now. That did not happen, sadly. If that had happened, this might be like number 2 on my list or something.
Really? Okay. All right.
I played the shit out of this game.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they hadn't wiped Well, I mean, they needed to wipe progress after each beta, of course. Like, that was not, I don't need that record for like that progress for anything, but I would love to see how many matches I played. It's like easily dozens, if not hundreds of matches.
So this is, once you explain
what
this is.
I feel like I've got this down to a science now. This is the very simplified, this is StarCraft 2 if the matches were 10 minutes long.
Right.
That's basically what it is, because the lead designer on the head on this was the lead multiplayer designer on StarCraft 2. But more to the point, it feels just like StarCraft 2. Like the literal muscle memory and hotkeys are the same. Like a lot of the units are straight out of StarCraft. Like you've got your siege tank equivalent. You got your Zergling equivalent. Like it is full on that.
With a little bit of like deck building, right?
Yes. Like very different on the monetization end. It's going to be free to play when it comes out, and it's full on deck building. There are not factions. There's just a giant pool of units, and you just bring 8 units in. So it's very different in that respect. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna main Protoss, and I gotta get my PVZ down. I gotta get my Protoss versus Zerg dialed in. Like you're never gonna have that, because it's always gonna be a mishmash of whatever people just decide to equip for a given match. Which is like pretty different experience in that respect. But like the basics of playing it feel very StarCraft. And I've talked about this on the main podcast before. It is like remarkably successful at freeing up your brain to engage with the higher level aspects of an RTS and not have to focus on the micro so much, which is like, I mean, duh, that's what it says on the box, like they're trying to make it less fiddly so you can not have to worry about like unit production so much and focus on the strategy more, but like it works. Like it's like shockingly effective at like, I found myself thinking in ways I had never been able to think before playing StarCraft, because I was always constantly like, I got to hotkey back to base. I got to keep worker production going. I got to spit out 5 more units. I'm like, oh God, I got to put my gateways down. Like I got to block my ramp. You know what I mean? Like you were constantly, for somebody who can't multitask as well, like there was just so much you couldn't do in a traditional RTS competitively. And in this, with all of that gone, it's so much more natural to be like, okay, I won that engagement. Now I need to push their expansion. Like stuff like that just pops into your head where it's like, oh, okay, they've gone factory or they've gone foundry. I'm going to go air, I'm going to go advanced air now. Like the strategic flow of a match, like just occurs to you in ways that it can't when you're too busy trying to micro everything constantly and macro everything. Like that's the thing. So like, I felt like I was engaging with an RTS on a deeper level because they give you the mental space to do that. Which is awesome. Like it's super cool.
Do you feel like some of that is also the kind of being able to focus in is the just fast iteration you get from each battle?
Absolutely. That's the thing. I mean, I'm trying to think what even takes time in this game. It's basically just building an expansion and upgrade and tech upgrades. That's it. And even those, like, even if you build a new base or like tech to air or whatever, I think it's 60 seconds for those to complete, and unit production is instant. So like everything happens on such an accelerated time scale that like it just feels super snappy and responsive. And like, if you bank too many minerals and they start pushing your base, you can have 50 extra units as fast as you can hold down the key, like it's crazy.
And what
so you can repel pushes like on a moment's notice if you have the resources to spit units out. It's just it's so fast and snappy.
And what's the average time? I know it's like 10, what is it, 10 or 12 minutes or 20-minute max? Or
10 minutes is the cap. 10 minutes. Okay. It goes to sudden death at 10 minutes, and you get an extra, I think, 60 seconds to try to fight it out before it goes to decision.
Okay.
But I would say 5 minutes. Like most matches were either done, like tapped out, like summary screen within 5 minutes, or very clear who was going to win by that point, and the other person was just refusing to tap out. Like it's so fast. That's how I can say that I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if my match count was in the hundreds on this, because it's like literally 3-4 minutes per match in a lot of cases.
Do you know what's changing after the beta? Or are they just kind of testing and balancing, or is there anything big going to change?
I don't know. That last beta round in November had a lot of the monetization stuff filled in that was not there over the summer. You couldn't give them money, to be clear, but they at least had the progress track in with the battle pass and like, here's how you'll earn currency to buy units to add to your deck type stuff. So it seemed like it was more of that. There was a lot of balance stuff too. There was also just a lot of like onboarding stuff they had added where They have a little graphic that is literally the rock, paper, scissors of the game.
Oh,
that shows up everywhere.
I think I saw that.
They added that in November. It's super helpful. It's just like, I can't remember. I think 2 of the 4 categories are big and anti-big.
Anti-big.
Like, this is like big units are good against like massed small units are good against blah, blah, blah. You know, like it's that kind of thing. They put a lot of indicators like that in there that help you understand which units are good against which a lot more easily. So I'm sure like basic unit balance is also still being tweaked. But it seems like it's a lot of the glue right now that they're refining before it comes out for real.
This is a great example of what you were talking about before with me and versus you, where it's like mechanics heavy versus story heavy. Because I was a StarCraft player I never played the multiplayer. I played through the campaign and never did the multiplayer. So while this is like, oh, this is StarCraft, but where's the story? Where's Raynor?
I get it.
There's dozens of him out there.
Right.
StarCraft 2 has an incredible campaign. Like there's really interesting stuff in there, but a lot of that even is mechanically, you know, like every map in that campaign has a different kind of gimmick to it.
Yeah.
But the story is and like the StarCraft 1 story is an all timer, you know, like that thing is revered for a reason for sure. So like I'm with you on that, but it wasn't until StarCraft 2 that I started appreciating it purely on a competitive level.
Yeah, and this is like like you mentioned a couple of times. This is like distilled mechanics.
Oh yeah,
this is like straight into the vein.
There is some kind of story. They have like a big anime cutscene, but I might as well not because I don't think there's any other story in it. It's super fun though. I cannot wait for this to come out for real. I really wish, it's been a while since I had a daily like I'm just going to play 20 minutes or 2-3 matches or whatever multiplayer game, but like this is that game for me when it finally comes out.
Side note, not related to this, the other ex-StarCraft folks, is their game coming out still?
Which there's more than one of those. I'm trying to Stormgate is probably the one you're thinking of.
Oh, that is the one I'm thinking of.
That is out in early access. That came out around the time that the first beta for Battle Aces ran.
Okay.
I have not tried it. It is early access. I have all the feedback I've seen on it makes it sound extremely rough.
Okay.
I probably should take a look at it at some point. But the
RTS.
mix of it being early access and a lot of the feedback I've seen on it has kind of given me pause to maybe wait and see where it ends up. But there's like 1 or 2 other big RTSs happening now too that what is that one? Zero Space is another one. I don't know if there's a StarCraft pedigree there or not.
I don't know if I know that one.
That one is happening as well. That one's not out yet.
Zero Space?
Zero Space. One word.
We might not have
and there's like 1 or 2 others. Like there's like people are trying to make RTS happen again.
Hell yeah. Not since Grey Goo.
Yeah, Grey Goo. I never played that game. I always thought it looked interesting.
Yeah, I played a little bit of it. It was good. Zero Space looks very RTS.
Yeah, Zero Space was kickstarted. I did not realize that. I am seeing here. There's another RTS somebody in our Discord sent me that I wish I had bookmarked because I can't remember the name of it now, but it's like a physics RTS.
Ooh.
Like they talk a lot about how like realistic and detailed their physics simulation is for the battles.
Huh.
That I need to find that game and try that at some point because that sounds crazy.
Yeah, you don't get that a lot.
Actually, that may not be out yet. I'll have to find that. Stay tuned.
Yeah. RTS games. Are they back?
They're back.
Maybe.
They're back-ish.
Yeah, I really hope Battle Aces does well enough to be a thing for a while because I need a game like that to play.
Sure.
Like every time the beta would end, I would think about going back into StarCraft 2 and I'm just like, nah, dude, I cannot. Like it's just nothing but tears. Nothing but tears await me there.
And tears not like bronze tears, like
no.
No, the kind that you cry and it kills you.
Yeah. I hit Diamond very early on in Wings of Liberty, but
Diamond.
I would not be able to get out of whatever this entry league is at this point.
And they're still running leagues in StarCraft too?
Yeah, that's all automated, I believe. Okay. Like they have kind of ceased active development on all that stuff pretty much, but I think the seasonal rankings just kind of happen.
Battle Aces, the beta.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll see more Battle Aces in the future on lists.
Not on this list, but yeah.
All right. Brad.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 here. Let me grab it. And let me find my cursor, which I can only see on the monitor that you guys get, which is super weird. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Brad's number 6, mine number 5.
Right. Okay.
What a hell of a game.
Man. Yeah, there's a lot of Metroidvanias these days, but
let's celebrate Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Let's celebrate a good one.
For sure. I mean, I think the Prince of Persia name gave it a big lift. I'm sitting here trying to think like, man, there are so many good Metroidvanias now. Like, why this one? Why did I gravitate to this one? I can't speak for you, but I think the Prince of Persia name alone still curries a lot of favor, right?
Look, if we're going to go with this theme of mechanics and story, this game has them both, right?
Yes, it
absolutely does.
The mechanics in this game and the control and the feel of this game is really top notch with good voice acting and like a fun Prince of Persia story.
The story is like shockingly good, especially later on. Like they reach an emotional pitch and kind of a level of excitement toward the end of this that is like pretty uncommon, I think.
Yeah. And
like
they make the mechanics make sense in their world narratively. Like you're trapped in this kingdom that is in a time bubble, basically, right? And
yes, it took me a good while to warm up to this game. Actually, now that I think this game's been almost a year since this came out, so it's like a little hard to remember some things. But it was several hours into this, I think, before I really clicked with it and was like, okay, I have to play the rest of this. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if there's any one power they give you or what.
The traversal powers are definitely the ones I loved at the end.
I think the traversal powers, and there's just a lot hidden in this world, and there's a lot to dig into. They really throw a lot of areas at you early that you can't access until you get some power. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of that.
Is it the one where you can throw? Is it like a boomerang-ish thing and teleport to it?
That's one of them.
That there's really a lot good.
Yeah, but they tease you with a lot early on of like, oh, you can't get past this door, or you don't have to roll under this barrier, or like, what's that up there up high that you can't get to? But as that stuff starts clicking into place, there's a lot of really clever abilities and level design. And God, now that I'm looking, right.
You remember all those challenge puzzles?
There's a lot of Ori in this game. A lot of like, hey, you need to like stay airborne for the entirety of this challenge to get to the end. If you touch anything, you start over.
Yeah, Ori's a good comparison.
Well, especially when on the coins you have to get where you can't touch the ground until you get the thing back.
Yes, those coin challenges were super satisfying. But yeah, like the story is like shockingly good in this, and especially I'm trying to remember. I mean, I guess we're just talking spoilers here. Like, is it the prince they killed? They killed the prince off right halfway through, and it's like the leader of your sort of like special ops band turns out to be the actual bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember a ton of how things go toward the end, other than I remember it just being like incredible. The final series of like clashes with that guy was just like incredibly satisfying
and like challenging, but not impossible.
Yeah, but I mean, like the kind of tone of the tone of the cutscenes toward the end, like the kind of music, voice acting, like everything just comes together, and it's just a really very exciting finish.
And you get your rogues gallery of this band of X-Men, superhero-ish folks who all have their special power, right?
Yeah.
It is kind of like an Avengers squad, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's good, and it
everything
works.
Is now.
And I feel like I remember the villain is very much like, is definitely an asshole, but like thinks he's doing it for the right reasons kind of guy, right? I don't think he's just power hungry. I think he like thinks that this is what the kingdom needs to survive or something, if I remember.
Strong leadership.
Yes, like very kind of authoritarian, like this is for your own good. Yeah, it's a hell of a game.
I did like this game. Again, I have a hard time with Metroidvanias because just keeping track of all the things you need to keep track of in those games is just something my brain struggles with. But I just, from a feel perspective, this is one of the tightest playing one of these I've played in a good long while. Yeah,
like you can really get around when you get all the powers, which is fun.
And
also, I wouldn't say the whole. Yes, very good map, some good quality of life features.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say the entire game, like visual art design is like, I mean, it's all fine. Like nothing is bad about it, but like some of it is pretty standard. But then you get stuff like that frozen shipwreck area.
Yeah.
Which it was just like, I had to put the controller down and just look at it for a minute when I got there. I was just like, holy shit. This is something I have never seen in a video game before. This is so rad.
And this studio is this game done, or is this
the studio is defunct?
Studio defunct,
or the team, I should say. I mean, it's a team.
Yeah, the team
within Ubisoft has been disbanded, unfortunately.
Ridiculous.
Yep, it sucks. This did not sell super well. Although, didn't this come out at like kind of a high price?
Was it 70? I don't remember.
It wasn't 70, but it might have been a $40 game.
I thought it was 50 or 60 maybe. Like I remember, I'm not saying it didn't deserve that, but I think that some people balked at the price, unfortunately.
Another
they put out DLC for it, but I have not checked out the DLC, and I don't think I will because I don't know that like bite-sized add-ons to a Metroidvania make a ton of sense for me.
Yeah, I didn't play the DLC either. Kind of surprisingly.
This kind of game is all about like a long arc of slowly accruing powers and unlocking more areas and stuff, right?
Yes.
So like kind of reducing that down to a shorter thing doesn't make as much sense to me.
But a hell of a game.
Yeah, this game's awesome. It's a shame there will not be another one.
Game development. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, number 5 on my list, number 6 on your list, Brad. Which brings us to Alex, your number 5.
Yes. Now the question is this one we will get to talk about now, or will we have to wait even longer?
Uh-oh.
Because the one I am putting in here is mouthwashing.
Not on my list.
What do you say, Vinny?
Okay.
It's not on your list. Okay, then we are going to talk about it.
All right.
Let's talk. Yeah. A hell of a game. Not on my list.
Hell of a game. A narrative that is grim, occasionally ridiculous and funny, but a lot of it is very just kind of mean and harsh and brutal. And, I'd say if Tacoma is like maybe the more upbeat and a like cleaner version of this story, this is the down in the dirt fucking everything sucks version of that story, which is to say it is about people in space who are doing shitty work in space and it all goes real bad for them.
And just for folks, if you don't remember, this was Brad's number 7 and we were on Alex's number 5 here. Yeah, this one, Alex, when you and I played this, I had really no idea what to expect. I thought
Me either.
It was going to be kind of a more...
Uh-oh.
It's going to be a little grimy, a little nasty, little yeah.
Oh boy.
I think
that's as grungy as the wrecked spaceship in Mouthwashing.
There you go. Nailed it.
I'm going to cut some of that out. So if you're wondering, there's a blip, some mic farting there.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be goofy. I thought it was going to be like a surreal, goofy tale of like, look at all this goofy stuff. Like you mentioned jazz punk before for another game. I thought it was going to be more of that. It kind of maybe starts off absurdist, but
it has some absurdity in it for sure. But a lot of that is kind of ancillary to the larger story, which is about being a space Amazon delivery person and having the worst shit happen to you while that's going on.
Just like a really severe rug pull in this game.
Yeah.
Like they don't make it super clear until, there are hints, of course, but like, I don't think you understand the true depth of the shittiness on the part of certain characters, and particularly the one you spend most of your time playing until the very end or toward the end.
I mean, in a year where Silent Hill 2 remake came out, this has very much been a year of actually you're the monster. And in this case, I would actually say this guy is probably a cut even above James in terms of just what a fucking piece of shit he is.
This goes beyond space madness, right? This is just a dirtbag piece of shit that decided to make his failings everyone else's problem.
Like you think for quite a bit of this game you were playing the kind of everyman stable, like the guy who's like the rock on the crew when everything's gone to shit. And is making everything happen, and boy, then you go on to find out he is basically the reason everything bad happened.
Yeah.
And he's super delusional about the fact that he's the good guy.
Yep. The basic thrust of the story is that it is a small crew of people. It is the Pony Express in space. You are delivering a giant cargo hold full of goods that you don't actually know what it is at the beginning of the game. And the game opens with the ship crashing. Specifically, it is from the perspective of the ship's captain as the ship is about to wreck. And he sort of does the heroic thing to try and, try to mitigate the disaster so that not everyone dies. And in the process of that is horrifically burned and injured in such a way that he is basically just a non-moving, snarling, screaming fucking, like just patient through most of the through most of the game.
Yeah, the intro is presented in such a way that it makes it seem like he crashed the ship at the beginning. Like it comes through a lot of the game. Like the rest of the crew thinks he's the reason they crashed.
Yeah,
which is not the case. It turns out.
Yeah.
Jimmy's a real piece of shit.
It is the main character who is brought to the ship, I believe, by the captain, if I'm remembering the order of events correctly, as sort of like hey, I'm going to help you out. You're in a bind. Your life is not going well. I'm going to try and give you a little bit of redemption by bringing you on as part of my crew.
Yeah.
And boy, does he not make good use of that opportunity.
No, definitely not. I'm trying to think like the gameplay of this, like when you're talking about 1,000 Times Resist not having a lot to it, like in my mind, there is a fair amount of stuff to do in this, although I guess when you step back, it really is a lot of just kind of going from place to place to trigger the next dialogue or whatever.
Yeah, you got a couple of very minor puzzles, like the food one.
Yeah, like there are some kind of hands-on interactions with the ship, which I wouldn't have minded a little more of.
But it's really about uncovering what the heck is going on and pushing the narrative forward for better or worse.
Yeah,
to
mostly worse
to realize what's going on here.
Yeah,
and
then a lot of like very delicate subject matter, like the things have not gone well at all between him and the lone female member of the crew, which is a major feature of the story that is revealed slowly.
And it's told in a kind of non-linear, bouncing around fashion, kind of like 1,000 Times Resist, where you're like, okay, here's like five minutes before the crash, 3 days post.
I think that's like that was probably the thing that impressed me the most about this game is just how, I don't know. It feels a little pretentious to say how confident it is in its storytelling, but I can't think of a better word.
No, it absolutely knows what it has, and it has a very firm idea of how to deliver it to the player in a way that will both be coherent and impactful. And I think it absolutely fires on all cylinders on that front. It's part of why it's on my list is that there's no part of this game that feels like it wobbles at all. Like it knows what it has, how long it needs to be. And I think it's, both the design of the ship, the way that thing kind of breaks out into more surreal spaces as the game goes along, the characterizations of your crewmates and kind of how it metes out information, like all that stuff is very expertly done.
Yeah. Yes. Like a lot of the writing is really pretty exceptional. Like the grizzled ship's engineer character Swansea, I feel like is a real standout in some of his delivery, some of the writing around him.
There's the overeager intern who things don't go great for him.
I mean, things don't go great for anybody, really.
I mean,
no.
There is a single bit of like 3 lines of dialogue from Swansea that I saw going around on Blue Sky that is what made me play this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish I could remember how it goes because I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it like do poor justice to it by trying to recite it or whatever. But there's some kind of like good grizzled, like I've seen a lot of shit kind of writing in there that really stands out.
Yeah, it's well done. I think the story it keeps you on your toes enough where the subject matter does get pretty heady, but I think it also keeps you even until the end being like, what is going to happen next year? Like it's not really predictable.
No, but it feels very coherent. Like it just feels like they knew exactly what they were doing the whole time with the time skips and the transitions into like hallucinations and dream sequences and stuff. Like it all just feels, I don't know how else to put it. Like it feels like a very coherent whole.
Yeah. And you got this self-contained environment in this ship, which I also think they do pretty well. Like they realize their world on this ship of you kind of get a sense of what this universe might be like, even within this tiny environment.
Yeah. I talked about it on the podcast a couple weeks ago, but like, incredible economy of production in this because it is a tiny space. Like the ship, for being a giant cargo ship, like it's gameplay wise, like it's not that many rooms, right? It's very small, and it's only 5 character models. But yeah, like they get a lot out of how small, like kind of how limited in scope the just straight up like assets and level design are.
Yeah, and again, the way they build out those spaces when they do is mostly to create like surreal, like repeating hallways and other things when like, they're trying to go through like a particular scene of someone freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the gameplay mostly completely fine. I didn't love the stealth sequence stuff.
That part is kind of...
It's whatever. I don't think it needed it. But really, that's kind of it. Like, that's really...
Yeah.
It's the only part where they really kind of demand anything of you.
Yeah.
We got stuck a little bit at the very, very end.
Yeah. I know we did play this on stream. I did end up going and grabbing it myself just because I wanted to put hands on it and say I actually played this so it can go on my list, and I did. So
that's right, verified, purchase verified.
Yeah. Yes, some like we said though, some pretty dark stuff in there. Like this game deals with sexual assault, for example, in a way that's not in your face, but is pretty like gut wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
Like suicide is also a regular theme throughout this, and it's again, I think it's done in a surreal way, but it is not done frivolously. Like,
even though I stayed up later than I wanted to finish this and was tired, as soon as I finished it, I immediately had to go like look up conversations about it in the way that you do with a film that really sticks with you, you know? Like I don't do that very often with video games, but I was just like, I have got to go see what other people thought of this and how they interpreted certain things.
Very good.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that developer.
Definitely.
Just check out 1,000 Times Resist.
Mm-hmm.
If you like mouthwashing, but maybe don't want to go as dark. I mean, there's plenty of dark stuff in 1,000 Times.
Yeah. The other thing I was gonna say though, real quick, is that like looking at a lot of the games on here, like it's very obvious what era of nostalgia we are in now.
Mm-hmm.
Like mouthwashing, Home Safety Hotline, Fear the Spotlight, all like mid to late 90s nostalgia now. Like
early 2000s, maybe slightly.
I think we're moving past the 8 and 16-bit like pixel art kind of dominating indie games era.
Sure.
And early 3D now.
Stuff like Arctic Eggs out there as well, and even some other stuff this year, like a Crow Country, like a lot of early 3D and like early to mid like Windows, Windows 95 stuff. Like that era of nostalgia is becoming predominant.
And I'll say in our 5, we're going to wrap this up, get to our top 4 on the next episode. But looking at this list, and I'll kind of go through it in a second here, really only 2 what I would call AAA games with Like a Dragon and Astrobot, and maybe even Astrobot, smaller game, but that's still probably AAA.
Oh yeah.
At that point. Everything else kind of smaller studios, smaller games. Yeah. Let's go run through what we have here. Brad, do you want to read your bottom 6
10
here?
10 through 5.
Fear the Spotlight, Astrobot, Home Safety Hotline, Mouthwashing, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, The Battle Aces Beta.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you want to do your bottom 6 here?
Sure thing. I got a Home Safety Hotline, Children of the Sun, Thank Goodness You're Here, UFO 50, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Mouthwashing.
And I've got at number 10, Tactical Breach Wizards, Phoenix Springs at number 9, Arranger at number 8, Rise of the Golden Idol at 7, 1,000 Times Resist at 6, and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown at 5. And I'm just quickly scanning over this. We had 2, 3 dupes.
Yeah, a couple of
Home
dupes,
Safety,
but actually
Prince of
mostly
Persia.
not.
Yeah, not as many. I wonder what we'll get to as time goes on. As we have
there are currently 3 dupes on here total.
Yeah,
I can think of some stuff.
I think we're gonna
There's a
have
couple.
some other things that are gonna pop up later. I can almost guarantee we're gonna have more.
Well, we know at least Astrobot will, because we haven't talked about that yet.
That's true. So spoilers. So we're gonna wrap this one up. Next episode, we're going to have our top 4, and then we'll probably just talk about some honorable mentions and a bunch of other stuff. And if we have the time, go over games that, look, we still liked, but you got to make a list. Got to have that cut off.
You got to cut some stuff.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff that was real close there. Like, thank goodness you're here. Just didn't make my list. I mean, we talked about it on your list, but it's a close one.
Hey, Tactical Breach Wizards almost made mine.
It's a lot of great games. I'll be curious to see what you guys have in your top 4. Though I think I can guess 1 for each of you so
Probably.
far. We'll see. We'll see. I am curious.
We'll see.
I have 2 things on my list, and I'm very curious to see if you guys have them on yours.
Okay.
There's one game in particular I'm very curious to see if it pops up or not. But I don't want to say what it is.
To be clear, we have not seen each other's lists yet.
No. We have not talked through our own lists to each other.
All right, that's going to do it for this, the first of our episodes on our top 10 favorite games of the year. We'll be back next week with the second half of this. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Alex. And we'll see you soon. Bye. And of course, before we wrap up, I'd love to thank our patrons. If you want to become a patron, go over to patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can sign up. It is where we get the overwhelming majority of our support and are able to keep doing this year after year. There is one tier there that gets their names read on this show, and that's the mysterious Benefactor tier, and I'd like to give them a special shout-out right now, starting with Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, NXL Retirement Fund, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre is Jeff the Land Shark now, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, Jad Rita, Statics, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Randy, Happy Holidays everyone, Alderson, Crow, Andrew Teepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slasky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Trees. Now, these are obviously pre-recorded, and they're not being put in immediately when people might sign up. So if you signed up after we recorded this, don't worry. We'll get you next year. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you soon.